So we lived with his mum for ages, and like we had like a lucky enough to have like a back room, but it has like patio windows. And there was this one time I was like practicing doing vocals, and like the postman had like rung the doorbell, and I didn't hear him obviously shouting. So he came round to see the patio doorbells and just watched me scream for ages.
The
Like
package,
I
like,
was like, oh, thank you.
He was probably like, "Oh, is somebody dying? Like,
Yeah,
I need to call the
literally. I
police."
was like,
pretty
here's your
much.
letter.
Today we are joined all the way from the UK with Sammy and Justine from Employed to Serve. As you're listening to this, Employed to Serve has just released their brand new album, Fallen Star, and my god, is this a metal masterpiece. So many bangers, some insane features with the likes of Jesse Leach from Killswitch and Gage, Will Ramos from Lorna Shore, and overall, this is such a cool evolution of their sound. One thing I love about this talk is beyond the band, learning about Sammy and Justine's history. The day they met seemed like it may have been love at first sight or love at first glance of a death metal shirt Sammy was wearing. You hear that story, how the music started, how Justine adapted her voice to master harsh vocals, and around with all of us gushing over our love for metal, they leave us off with some amazing advice for aspiring musicians themselves. So yeah, hope you enjoy this talk with Employed to Serve, and yeah, let's get right into it.
I've been listening to you guys for a few years now, but beyond the music, I've never like really dove into like your history or story, and just seeing like little points on your press release to it just got me so intrigued. And like even like reading that you guys met when you were like teenagers, I just found that adorable. Like, which is a
Yeah.
weird word to say for like metal and hardcore. But I just kind of want to know, like, do you guys like remember the day you met and what transitioned into you guys collaborating like into music? And
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, so it was my like one of my best friends' house parties. Like we just finished our GCSEs when we were 16, which is like our big exam. So over, I don't know what it's like. Are you Canadian?
yes, I am.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like for you guys, but like we can leave school. Well, used to be able to leave school when we were 16, so it was like our end of school. Like it was that summer of like house parties and stuff because we still weren't allowed to drink properly.
Yeah.
And yeah, and he just gate crashed with his friends, like my friend's house party, and I just sort of met
Yeah.
him there, and he was like wearing a defeated Sanity t-shirt,
Yeah.
and
I still have it to this day as
I
well.
was very
Oh,
drunk, and
amazing.
all I saw was a death metal logo, and I was like, Cannibal
Oh my
Corpse.
God. Yeah, cannibal.
Close enough, yeah.
Yeah,
I think at
yeah.
that point, any just girl just name dropping a death metal band was like, okay, awesome, she's the one.
Yeah, yeah. Just immediate hard eyes. That's
Pretty
amazing.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. And yeah, just kind of like so you guys met and stuff, and obviously like years later you guys are producing this amazing music. Do you remember like the first time you guys jammed and like how that was like and maybe what that collaboration was?
Yeah, absolutely. It took a few years. I think we'd been dating for maybe like 5 or so years before we started Employed to Serve. So I was in a lot of bands, since we met essentially, and Justine was really into music as well. So she was always like, well, I say she was always keen to come along. Quite a lot of the time, she was roped into driving us, up and down the country. But like, you had a keen like interest in music and photography and art in general. So Justine was always at shows with like a camera in her hand and got a real artistic touch with drawing and stuff like that. And MySpace profiles was your
Yeah,
big
yeah. I
thing as
taught
well,
myself
wasn't
like
it?
HTML
Oh,
for like,
sick. Yeah.
But, proper, blast from the past that. But yeah, so Justin was like really into music, but at that point you weren't doing anything like in a band
no,
as
so like
such, were
I got a
you?
guitar and lessons when I was like 14, but I just didn't have the what's the word? The concentration or the want to sit and actually drill the instrument. Like I was just like, this is so boring. I want to play outside. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
And
yeah.
yeah, and then when with Justine sort of showed an interest in doing vocals and I said to her, and this isn't like taken away from being a metal vocalist whatsoever, because it still takes a lot of time and attention to your craft to kind of master the art of doing it. But I am a firm believer that anyone can learn how to do it if you put the time in. Your voice might sound different and you might be naturally better at a certain style of metal vocals. But I just remember saying to Justine, I was like, look, if you give this a go and I mean, the first step at being, or at least I found for being a metal vocalist, was just kind of breaking through that threshold of being scared to be loud. And the first time you scream is you're so self-conscious because you never nail it the first time. It takes a little bit of practice before you get it. Your
Mhm.
family can hear you practicing in the house. But I just said to Justin, as like, if you can kind of break through that and work on it, I'm sure you can learn how to scream. And lo and behold, it turns out that she had a great metal voice hiding in there all along. So
Oh, it was so awkward. I remember a few times practicing in his, so we lived with his mum for ages, and like we had like a lucky enough to have like a back room, but it has like patio windows. And there was this one time I was like practicing doing vocals, and like the postman had like rung the doorbell, and I didn't hear him obviously 'cause he was shouting. So he came round to see the patio doorbells and just watched me scream for ages.
he was like,
Yeah, and I was
the
like,
package,
I
like
was like, oh, no, thank you.
He was probably like, "Oh, is somebody dying? Like, do I
Yeah,
need to call the
literally. I was
police?"
like,
pretty
here's your
much.
letter.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine like that's so like funny to think of too because even I've never did vocals in a band or whatever, but obviously loving metal my whole life, you always have imagined like what if, but always what stopped me practicing is like, oh, what will my roommates think? What will my mom
Yeah,
think? I'm just in the like in the basement, like what the fuck?
it's an antisocial hobby. It's up there with drumming, you know?
Yeah,
Like, it's noisy.
that's why I think it's so hard for people to get into it initially because, yeah, like most people, you share a house with someone and you've really got to kind of go for it to like unlock the kind of the technique and stuff. And it's really hard at first. You're so self-conscious.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And the first time I heard you was a friend of mine. Actually, I got to shout him out. He was a guest on the show. He's a professional comic book maker named Kyle James Smith, and
That's pretty
he
cool.
we realized like we were both into metal. We went to like a nail show together, and then
Oh,
just
that's
like
nice.
that year, sometime he messaged me. He's like, "Oh, have you heard Employed to Serve?" I'm like, "No," and he sent me Internal Forward Motion, and
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. And what's like kind of trippy too is I haven't talked to Kyle in a long time, and he messaged me 2 days ago being like, "I have this new book coming out. Can I come on the show again?" I'm like, "Oh, of course." And I'm like, so random. Like tomorrow, I'm interviewing Employed to Serve. So
It's
he
like
was
we're in.
like, "Oh, that's rad. I can't wait to listen to it." So shout out to him. But
Oh, yeah.
also connecting with the vocals, one thing that stood out on that record was your vocals, Justine. And it, again, this is going to be like another like serendipitous connection. When I first heard you, it reminded me of when I first heard Jesse Leach
Oh,
at
wow. Thank you.
like Alive of Just Breathing era, like just the rawness of your voice. And now, fast forward years later, I look at on your new album and you got a song with Jesse Leach.
Yeah,
That's
it's wild.
So
so
stoked.
Oh,
cool.
that's cool, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Was he like a big influence on you?
Yeah, like absolutely. Like I was a huge, well, still am a huge Killswitch fan. Like growing up, so that it was him, like Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, and Corey Taylor from Slipknot on my like three, like vocalists. I definitely tried to emulate when learning vocals.
Oh,
So yeah.
wow, that's cool. Like in it's kind of crazy how I kind of I don't know, heard that in your voice as well. Like I don't know, there's just like this rawness to it. And I remember in that era like Jesse actually like heard his voice and he had to like take some time off. Did you find like maybe doing that style was it hard for you or did you find like a safe way to do it?
It took me a couple of years, but I actually put a video up on socials recently of like a sort of like then and now kind of thing. And I definitely had a higher range when I was starting out, and I could hear it in my voice. I was straining,
Shredded.
like shredding.
Yeah.
Because I've got quite like a mid sort of like mid, a medium sort of like kind of like level sort of voice, like rather than high and low. I kind of sit nicely in the mid range. And I found that like quite early on that that's like where I love sitting and it's comfortable for me. So yeah, like after like months of touring and things like that, you find your sort like your safe spot where you're like, okay, I can do this for like a month. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, you've
Yeah.
always been quite like lucky with that you kind of once we started doing the longer tours, you kind of found a footing and you were able to
Mm.
kind of
It was
get,
you who actually had issues, wasn't it? Like you had to
yeah.
change your stuff
Well,
up
yeah, if you
because
listen to a Eternal Forward Motion compared to like now, I used to do like the more kind of like actual shouting kind of vocals,
Mhm.
and that just absolutely annihilated my voice because it was just me just shouting, and then we'd go on tour and I'd be shouting in between the songs, and after the first show, my voice would just be like shot to bits, you know.
yeah, I think the thing for me, like the killer is talking over music afterwards. Like
Yeah,
merch, I try like I always like to hang like say hello to the people who came to see us because I just think it's nice and I meet nice people through it.
Mhm.
But when that music is too loud and I'm talking over it, that's when I'm in trouble. So like I have to be careful with that or not going to like bars or pubs and clubs like after shows and things like that because that is
yeah,
that is when you're gonna lose your voice.
number one killer.
Yeah, definitely. Even like I don't do vocals myself, but I notice after shows if I'm just even at a show with a group of friends and we're talking together, like the next day I'm shot. Like I'll be trying to do an interview and I'm just like, holy shit. So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess you got to be very careful, especially when you're doing a tour and especially early in the tour, you don't want to just like blow your throat out or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, well,
That's
that's why
it.
I think sometimes vocalists get a bad rap because you do just have to sort of hide away and not
Mhm.
really talk and be on vocal rest when you can. Like, I try not to, well, I try not to. I try not to talk too much, like, whilst on tour and things like that. You just have to, yeah, you just have to sort of work out what is good for you because it's so funny to think, right? Because there's like loads of like older sort of rock stars who like did heroin, like
Yeah.
drink loads, and
Yeah,
they somehow can perform afterwards. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I've got a tickle, I've got a
yeah,
tickle in my throat,
yeah.
like after like a coffee. And it's just such a funny little world we're in now. I mean, it's much nicer. I don't want to be into heroin. It's not my vibe. But you know, what I mean? It's just like you like read all these autobiographies. It's like, how the fuck did you like perform every day? They
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
didn't that well, to be fair. It was probably a bit,
It's practice, isn't it?
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, and back then they didn't have cell phone videos, so you don't know how good these performances
But yeah,
was.
how good
Like,
were
That's
you
it.
like on the all of these drugs and like alcohol? Because that's another thing. I don't really drink at all on tour because that just dries you out like anything, and it also makes you talk louder when you're drunk as well.
That was the Eddie Van Halen way, though, wasn't it? He'd practice like shit faced at home, so that when he went on tour, he could drink and still perform. And I'm
Mm.
pretty sure like Dimebag followed in that
Yeah, all the
same
Pantera
sort of.
used to like
yeah.
they used to like practice drunk. Oh,
Yeah.
God. Well, the headaches,
Oh yeah.
the dehydration, because like sometimes if I'm dehydrated, I'm shouting, I get headaches from it, and the idea of being permanently in that state, that's purgatory.
Oh yeah, especially like the loud music going through your monitors too.
Ah,
It's just all
hungover. Oh,
the
mate, no
people
thank
don't even know like the
you.
sacrifice.
I'm grateful to be this era of artist where like everyone's a bit more into their mental health.
Yeah, health conscious.
Yeah, that's so dope. And even one thing I appreciate too is just kind of from finding you around its Eternal Forward Motion to the next album to this album, it seems like you kind of have this natural progression of adding in and sprinkling in like new elements, new recipes to your music, but also it still fits the vibe in like almost the just everything is just like all smooth together, like how like the clean vocals come in now and stuff like that. Like I've been loving like the evolution of your sound, and I just kind of want to know like maybe what were like the processes of like doing these changes, and did you ever feel like nervous like maybe adding in like a clean and like what would your fans think type of
Uh,
Yeah.
mindset?
I mean, it's always the fear that you're gonna have, but you kind of hit the nail on the head, and it's cool to hear that you think the vibe has stayed the same, even though we've kind of introduced these other elements. Because I mean, since day one, we've always kind of switched it up. The thing I always come back to is like I remember when we released our second album. And already on that one, we had a couple of songs that were a bit of a different vibe from the first. And people back then were like, "Oh my God, it's like changed so much." And
yeah.
and it seems like there's always like a few people every record we put out,
Yeah.
particularly with like more curveball tracks, who are initially a little bit like, "Wow, what's this? This is like a bit different for you guys." But we just try and keep it interesting for ourselves.
Mm.
We want to we don't want to be completely unrecognizable, but at the same time, there's a certain, I don't know, it's something quite fun about chucking out a track where
You get a little
you
bit of dopamine from it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like you feel
yeah,
like you're talking to people a bit. It's like it's kind of fun.
yeah. But
Also, we don't want to write the same album twice. Like,
Mhm.
why would we spend so much money going into the studio and like get our fans to waste their money on buying the same record over and over? Like, we just might as well just tour our catalog, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, for real
but
too.
the
Yeah.
progression has been, yeah, I think that the one thing I've noticed in recent times, obviously, like the biggest jump for us has been between Eternal Forward Motion and Conquering, mainly because we had quite a big personnel change at that point because we were moving more down the metallic route. And then when we got our new drummer, Kate, well, I say our new drummer, he's been in the
I
band now
think
for
we
about
had the
five
whole
years, but
all of the members had been.
pretty much changed, yeah, at
Yeah,
that
because I don't think
point.
even Nathan was on Eternal Forward
He
Motion.
wasn't, no.
Yeah, so we basically it was only us two. We scared them all away.
That's it.
Yeah.
They grew up and had families. They're really happy now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice to
so
hear.
it was that crossroads sort of thing. But yeah, but when I mean everyone's, very much contributed to the way ETS sounds now, but I think with Casey, our drummer joining, he was a different style drummer to our previous one, and he's a lot more like experience with like double kicks and real fast kind of more like metal drumming. So for me, an ever long fan of Sepultura and Machine Head and all this kind of stuff, and this that kind of sound that I was wanting to implement more into ETS. Conquering was kind of like the green light just to go fucking crazy with that. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
cool. Yeah,
So
that's
that's
gotta be so exciting too when you kind of get that extra element and now you can just work in a different way and you can do so much more than what you were doing before.
Yeah, it just opens up the
totally.
floodgates, doesn't it, really?
Mhm.
Like what you can do and because you've always been a metal guy, to have like a more metal focused drummer.
Yeah, it's definitely where I saw like the band going. I mean, we never want to be just like, I mean, we sit comfortably in the metal sphere, but we obviously like to try and push the boundaries a bit. But with our original drummer, so he was a single kick drum guy, which initially I found really cool, and I quite liked the challenge of writing music to accommodate just like a single kick drum, and I think that kind of made us as groovy as we were and as we still are today. Like groove's still an element we really like to have in our music. But I think 3 albums in, that's when I was starting to get to the point where it's like I've not running out of ideas to do with just a single pedal, but it was starting to become more of a hindrance than it was like adding to the music. You know what I mean? So getting Casey to join the band was like a huge one for us. Whereas now, like fast forward to Fallen Star, I feel like it's a more refined version of like conquering, but also kind of bringing back more elements from like Eternal Forward Motion. We keep saying that this one's like it's more dynamic, like there's more
Mm.
peaks and valleys, and whereas conquering was just like,
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just gassed to be like playing together because it was like during COVID and we were allowed to practice because it's sort of like technically work.
yeah,
So like that was our only source of like socializing and getting out into the world. Like apart from that, I didn't see anyone else out of my household. So we were just like gassed. And I think it just sort of like shows on like that album where it's just like 11 the whole way through.
Yeah, yeah, just mad at the world. Just like we're in the
yeah,
We were just a bit
pretty much.
unhinged and
Yeah,
yeah.
I love it. We were all unhinged, and that's probably why I enjoy that album as well. But even it's cool, like you said, the word dynamic for this one, and that's like a perfect way to describe it. I love the ebbs and flows, and even like I find like I get almost like goosebumps when it has that contrast from the heaviness to the melodic, beautiful moments, and it's just a really cool piece. And again, like we mentioned, you collaborated with Jesse Leach on one of the tracks. And one thing I'm loving about like the metal scene, like in modern times right now, is everybody's collaborating with so many different people on their records. Like I just talked to Caliban, they had a bunch of features, and even beyond Jesse, you have Will Ramos and like some other people too. And I just kind of want to know like your approach of like um getting these collaborations. Do you have the songs first and then you pitch them, or do they come in and kind of work it out with you, or what's the process with that?
Oh yeah, going back to like collaborations, I like hip hop and pop have been doing it for years. I'm so happy
Yes.
we've finally cottoned onto this because it's so much
Yes.
fun. But in terms of the collaborations, we write the song first, and like sometimes we'll like me and Sammy will write the lyrics and like the vocals together, and we'll be like, you know what, who would really nail this?
Yeah, it really
And
suit
we'll be
it.
like Jesse Leach, and like the same with like Will Ramos and Serena Cherry from Svalbard. But yeah, we wrote it all and we like demo it because we don't know, like, if we're lucky enough to get a guest on a track, we don't know how much time they've got and how much they want to add, like create, like, like write stuff themselves. So we tend to like write the lyrics for them and like demo like a vocal pattern as an example. But we always sort of give them free reign to like add their own flavor if they want to. But we also give them a guide in case they do just want to like hop into a studio
Do
and do
their
their
thing.
bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so yeah, like we sent those parts over, and yeah, each vocalist added their own flair to it, and it was incredible.
Like
Yeah.
most notably the on the wheel track, we didn't ask him to sing at the end. He just did it. Like, and we were like, holy shit,
This is
that's
sick.
all. Thank you very much for doing that. And then same with Jesse. He like we've written the bits at the end, like on the breakdown with all the harsh vocals, but he added like the like his like sung kind of gruff voice in the choruses, and we were like, this is awesome. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's cool. Yeah, like Justine said, it's nice to be like, here's a rough idea of what we're going for, but like let loose and do your thing, you know?
Yeah, and I can imagine them getting excited too, because you're not just like some random band, garage band, just sending them just something just out of the blue. Like your music is actually sick, and like the songs that they are in is just so well written and stuff like that. So they probably got like an extra excitement being able to like even be a part of it too.
Well, I'm hoping like, yeah,
I
like
hope they had fun.
yeah,
We
you
had
know,
fun anyway.
to
So
feel
yeah.
yeah, feel inspired to add those little, you know, those extra elements
Hmm.
that really make the song rather than just be like, bam, that's it, job done. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
that's
God.
cool.
Guess I'll yell on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also love how you like also mentioned in pop and hip hop, they've always done this. And I always thought this like in the early 2000s, I used to listen to like all those shady Aftermath records and they'd have like everybody in that label just all featured all over the place. And the only time I saw it in metal around that era was like Roadrunner put out an album called Roadrunner
Yeah,
United.
dude, I
Hell
love
yeah.
that record
It's
so
so
much.
cool. And like at the time, like it was like kind of very like unique. And I was like, I want more of this. But now I feel like it's totally the norm now with all these features and like, yeah, it's cool.
Well, that's like literally like almost how I got into metal was Jay-Z, was it Reanimation of Linkin Park?
Oh,
Is it
yeah, yeah.
Reanimation? Like that's because I was really into like hip hop and pop when I was younger. And
Cool.
I heard that and I was like, who's this band? This is sick. And like that's like like opened up well for me because before that I only had like, I don't know if you guys get the Now compilation CDs.
Uh,
We had
yeah.
like, yeah, we had them. Like I literally only had like Blink 180, like which are great bands like Blink 182, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Nickelback. They were like the only guitar music I listened to up until that point. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I would, you're bringing me back with like now. And did you
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
this might be a Canadian thing. Did you guys ever have one called Big Shiny Tunes? I remember it was produced in Canada, but Americans would get it as well. But yeah.
Oh,
Big
we
shiny
oh, you
tunes.
didn't get that sadly. Yeah, we only got
Oh,
like the now,
okay. Yeah,
now
yeah.
2000 and things like that, and it had all the sort of top 40.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just like those type of
We had the
CDs
same
were like
song.
so important like for people to discover things because sometimes they see a commercial and they're like, "Oh, I like that one song." And this is
Mm.
pre like internet being kind of like efficient enough to just like download stuff. People were still buying like physical copies of things, but then they listen to the rest of the album and then they're finding all these different bands and artists that they wouldn't have checked out before, which I think is also I feel like you guys are doing this in a way as well with having like a Will or a Jesse on a track, maybe somebody who's only like heavy stuff is you guys and they're like, "Oh, who's this Jesse guy? What's Killswitch?" Go back in time and I think it's important just to kind of keep things alive and
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like that's it. Like a big one for that is when I remember when Terra toured with Knocked Loose, like quite early on in Knocked Loose, sort of like in their climb. And I thought
yeah.
that's such a good idea because it's sort of like you get like you kind of share fans then. And it's like such like, like an important sort of part of like, once you've been a band for quite a while, like Terra, like having like getting into like the kids and sort of like the new generation of hardcore fans and like also like knock loose, like kind of like becoming more like the old guard being like, oh, these are sick. It's just like it's a nice way of doing it, and it's a bit less isolating, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like that might be good advice for like maybe indie bands in their scene to branch out, maybe just like collab with other people in their scene. And like, again, it's just like you're kind of sharing fans who wouldn't maybe normally listen to you. And I do get like a lot of like different creatives kind of message me saying they listen to these segments. And I always like to leave off with like a little bit of advice from my guests. And I know you guys been doing this since you were teenagers. And would you happen to have like any general advice for maybe a group of kids right now, they're wanting to put a band together, or maybe they're just playing in their garage, like to take like the next step to maybe get into the industry and like take it more seriously?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean, the big one for me is community. Like, make friends with other bands.
Yeah.
Like, be supportive of each other. Because the amount of times I've seen like opening bands like disappear after their set and not watch other bands and things like
Hmm.
that. Like, the most rewarding part I find about being in a band is like all the friends like of other bands that I've made on the way. Like Svalbard, for example. Like, I was a huge fan of them, and now like they're lifelong friends because we've toured together, and like I try and catch their show anytime they're in town. And I just think it's a very important thing to like be part of the community of like your scene rather than just being like, this is, I'm just going to play my show and then I'm going to go home. Like, I just think it's a much nicer way, and I think you'll get more out of your band in enjoyment wise as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, your first fans are probably going to be these other bands. I
Yeah,
mean, that's how it was. That's how it was
because
for
no one
us.
else comes to those
You
shows,
Yeah,
know,
mate.
true.
when we were starting out, like Justin says, playing with like Svalbard and a bunch of other bands from like our sort of somewhat not local scene, but the UK scene at that point in
Hmm.
time. We'd put on shows in each of our cities, and that's how we'd do tours because we'd know bands, from up north in the country and down like in the south and stuff like that. And that's how you do it. And I've always thought that's the real plus side to this type of music because I went and studied production at a like a music college or whatever you want to call it, and there'd be people like on the course there, who play an instrument and they want to start a band, and in their head they've just got this vision of like, we just want to be the next Nickelback or something. Like they're thinking like arena size before they've even thought about playing at their local bar.
They
You
Hmm.
know what
forgot the
I mean?
steps that they need to get there.
And that
Yeah,
was all
yeah.
interesting thing to me because at that point in time I was already just absolutely like submerged in the underground culture in the UK. So I'd just be like, well, just listen to other bands who are like of a similar size to you. Like all of your favorite bands are, massive, which is cool. But when we started, the stuff we were listening to on a regular basis was just like
Local bands.
underground UK
Yeah.
bands. That's what we were into. So we just built a network out of that, kind of championed each
Yeah, we
other.
did show swaps as well. That's how we
Yeah,
booked tours initially. So Svalbard are from Bristol, we're from like London, well, just outside London. So, and then we had, who else do we have? We had a couple friends up north. So we'd like go, oh, can you book us a show, like a part of our run? And then next time they on their tour, like we'll be like, oh, we'll book the London show.
yeah,
And that's how we started because like when you're so small, like booking agents and that aren't interested yet because like they need to
Hmm.
make a living and like you can only get £50 a show. So you have
Yeah.
to very much just like, DIY it at the beginning. And it's so much easier when you have friends up and down the country who can hook you up with shows. And they can just stick their own band as like support, and then you get the practice of playing live as well.
Yeah,
yeah,
Um,
definitely, definitely. And there's the power of like that practice, getting your reps in, because I've seen it in different art forms and music, stand-up comedy, even other interviewers too, where they'll get like this big moment, but they haven't put in the reps and they weren't ready for that moment and
uh,
they fall on their face, which I find is like always a good lesson. But at the same time, it's like it's important to be humble, like try to start at the ground level. Like I even notice in like the podcast world, like some other people who are just starting out, they're just like, oh, I reached out to this big name, they didn't get back to me. I'm like, interview people in your community, like build, like it's like a gradual thing. And plus you get better.
humble.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Like, because also, that's what I find really interesting about music at the moment. Like, loads of labels, A&Rs, like, look at TikTok at the moment and they see these giant artists on TikTok that have barely played live. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what are they going to do when they play live? They've never even played a club show. They're going to freak out. And like,
Mhm.
I think it's so important to cut your teeth, like on the like the underground circuit first, just to
Mhm.
get good. Because like practice and playing live is so different.
I guess it also depends on what you want as like a musician as well, right? Because I guess when we started, like we weren't ever envisioning doing anything we're doing now, and we certainly didn't have any like dreams of being, I don't know, or trying to be like some sort of, or even doing it for a job necessarily. We started it because we loved it, you know. So I guess there are people who kind of get into this maybe in more kind of popular genres of music where they're like, I'm doing this because I want to be have a career out of it. So they're probably more happy staying at home making TikToks and trying to break it that way. But for us, we love playing music live. So the idea of just staying at home trying to make it big on TikTok and not playing any shows until you do that is just like,
Depressing.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah.
why we do this. And you know, obviously if there's people out there who are doing it the other way around, that's fine. But I think for metal, at least, I mean, particularly the
Mm.
more underground stuff like hardcore and stuff like that, it's about, like you say, going out and cutting your teeth and making sure you're a good live band is important.
Yeah, definitely. And especially in your genre, it's all about that live energy. There's a bunch of like death metal bands I've noticed, like especially like I can use Cannibal Corpse as an example. I've probably seen them live like almost 20 times. But when I'm at home, I'm not like really like spinning the records or anything. But when they're
Right.
coming to town, I'm like, "Oh, I want that energy. I need to
Yeah.
be there." It's but so it's just like metal like fortunately like it just kind of lives in that energy where we still like all gather together and like it's the best way
Yeah.
to experience it.
Well, it's electric, isn't it? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's the vibe. I mean, yeah, particularly it's something like a Cannibal Corpse show. It's just
Yeah.
it's unrivaled, isn't it? You know, it's such a buzz. And, you know, even if you do listen to them at home, it's not the same as being down at the gig, is it? You know,
Yeah, well, that's it.
Yeah.
I've had like friends and family members who aren't fans of metal, but they've
Yeah.
been kind enough to come see us live, and then they come up to me afterwards like, "I get it now. Like I
Yeah.
get,
Yeah.
like I understand because it's like one thing on like on record, but seeing it live, it's like I get this energy now. I understand why you love it so much."
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I've yet to see you guys live. Hopefully you guys are coming to Canada sometime
Oh, we'd
soon.
love we'd like yeah. I mean, I love Europe, but like I would love to sort of play. That's like my next goal is play outside Europe for
Yeah.
Cool,
our next
cool. Yeah, so
time.
like obviously like with this album, you guys are going to be like touring around Europe and everything.
Yeah, so we've got the UK headline tour on release week, and I'm very excited because we're actually playing London on release day, which is the first because we always get together and have a little party like between us anyway. So yeah, it's nice to actually have other people there for this party. And then we're playing some festivals in Europe in the summer, and then we're hopefully going to do some extensive Europe touring at the end of this year.
Yeah.
Ooh, cool. Yeah,
Get
well,
out.
yeah, I just want to thank you guys for your time today. It was a pleasure meeting you guys. I just love
Likewise.
vibing with you. I probably could have talked with you like for a couple hours more, but I'm gonna let you
Yeah.
enjoy your evening and everything. But yeah, this was like super cool to meet you guys. I've been like I mentioned, I've been listening for a couple years, and yeah, when that Canada show comes eventually, I will be there. I'll be throwing down in the pit,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'll
What
come
city are you
say
from?
yeah, I'll come say hello. Oh, I'm in Toronto.
Oh,
Okay.
sick.
One of the main ones. That's nice and easy. It's not, yeah,
Yeah, I'm
it's not the
blessed.
worst of Canada.
Yeah, I feel blessed because like when there is a tour, everybody comes here, so it's like
Yeah.
super
Yeah, was it
cool.
Vancouver, Toronto are the big ones, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And even I live in between like a 20-minute walk one direction is like one concert venue and a 20-minute walk in the other direction is another concert venue that
Oh, that's
always
cool.
has like metal shows too. So even if I like have too much to drink or whatever, I can always get home and just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Cool.
zigzag home. Even
yeah, yeah.
zigzag, you can still home in 40 minutes.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say you're in the London of Canada, but I forgot that already exists.
Yeah, London, Ontario. Hey, that's cool. Yeah. You gotta play there as well. That's a metal city as well, home of Kitty. But
Oh yeah, of course.
That's
Sick.
cool.
yeah,
Love to-
yeah. But yeah, once again, it was so nice talking to you guys, and hopefully we can do another one of these around your next album as well.
Oh yeah, I
Oh
would
yeah,
love
that would
to.
be awesome. But yeah, pleasure to meet you and thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this interview with Sammy and Justine of Employed to Serve. And like we mentioned, their brand new album, Fallen Star, is out right now. Check it out. I think it's a masterpiece. And weren't they fucking cool? This is one of those situations where I've already liked the music, but now having a talk with Sammy and Justine, feeling their energy, getting to know them a little bit as people, I love it even more. good vibes all around. And speaking of good vibes all around, we can't run away without thanking all you lovely motherfuckers on the Patreon page. And first up, the biggest thanks to the queen, Ola Mazuka of Sonic Fold. Go search for Sonic Fold on Instagram. You can find Ola doing interviews of her own with so much compassion, so much soul. And around that, she's an amazing community builder and brings the vibes to all of us with some incredible DJ sets that she does herself. So yes, check out Sonic Fold. Another huge thanks to the lovely Amanda McKnight of the Vamp X13 YouTube channel and the Vamp X13 Twitch channel. If you're into comic books, movies, video games, and all things nerdy, check out Vamp X13. Another big thanks to the wonderful Jenny Potter, the legend Devin McBride, the number one gent Alan Kent, and last but not least, Francis Coffer, aka my mom. If you want a shout out at the end of every episode and also get these episodes raw, uncut, early, right when I'm done the Zoom call, I just post them. You can go to patreon.com/thecreativeimbalance, and beyond having my forever thanks, you can just go to bed at night and sleep soundly, knowing you're a badass motherfucker who supports raw, uncut, independent media, and nobody can take that away from you. You hear me? With that being said, we got some amazing interviews around the corner, so stay tuned for more, and we'll catch you next time. Mwah.